today we're going to talk about. Let me make sure I'm sharing the screen. I think you guys could see it. So it's not Google. I intentionally made a logo, and what you see on the screen is basically a letter that the manager usually prints out or electronically gives to the employee at the end of the compensation process. So it would typically have the effective date. It would have, the name of the employee, employee number. It would have the subject, and then, something like "Congratulations, we're pleased to inform you of your bonus award," and then, like the actual values get populated. And then, if the company wants to add additional details, they would give you those numbers to add, and then, just kind of thank you. And sometimes there's a electronic signature stamp, and sometimes there's not. But basically, I'm showing you an example of a bonus letter, and it's done in Report Designer of the Studio application. And the technology behind it is called BIRT. And let me share some notes on that. Okay. So in Studio, when we go into Report Designer with Form Layout, there's a tool called Business Intelligence and Reporting Tool. That's where the word BIRT comes from. B-I-R-T. Okay. Now, in order to use BIRT, you need to create a report within Workday, and you need to create a web services enabled report. Because once you enable it as the advanced web service, then the XML alias section appears on the columns tab. And size limitation, BIRT reports could be no greater than 2 gigabytes. Within the advanced report within Workday, once you have enabled it as an advanced web service, under the advanced tab, you could see the namespace and the check mark. I'll just go into Workday and show it to you guys. The screenshot is a little bit hard to see. Okay. But basically, in that report, you need to drop that report within Workday, and then you need to download that report's structure and some sample data. And then once you download that data from the structure and the data from Workday, you will need to upload that into Studio. And you have to go into the URLs. If you guys have taken reporting, the section there, it's like where the URLs are listed. And you need to download the Workday XML. And you also have to download the XSD file. So the XML is the structure, and the XSD is the data. So let me show that to you guys within Workday. So the report that I created in our sample company is H1 2019 incentive bonus letters, and it's an advanced report type. And I used the one-time payment object. If you guys recall, yesterday at the end of the process when we finalized it, where did we go to see the data in the employee profile, right? We went to the one-time payment history, and the data was over there. And then we saw, like, we went into the profile and we saw the data under the one-time payments. So in order to create the BIRT report, we also need to create the report from the one-time payment business object. You could also create it directly from the grid business object, but then once you finalize it, you cannot change that. But if it's under one-time payments, you could correct it and edit it, and then you'll get the latest data from this report. So any field that we want in that letter, it needs to be part of this report. So for example, employee ID, employee name, the supervisory org, the bonus plan, or target bonus, the actual bonus, and actual bonus in local currency are the ones that I chose for right now. And under the prompt, what I did was for bonus process, I defaulted in the bonus process to bonus 29. So whatever the bonus process is that you're running, you will go over here and change it. So this way you don't have to, when the manager runs it, they're not bothered by having to put in the bonus process name. Because all of the bonus processes will put the data in the one-time payment. So you have to tell Workday which bonus process are you referring to when you want to pull the data. And then in here, I populated Peter Pan. Peter Pan's organization as default, just so that I don't have to select it each time. And then the report is going to be run by the managers, so they could get the letters for their employees. So you want to make sure that is shared with the manager group. In addition to managers, you must also share it with the HR partners in case they need to run the report on behalf of the managers. So you want to make sure that you share appropriately. So at the minimum, it should be compensation administrator, HR partner, managers, and management chain. So that means anybody above the manager could also they could also run the report and get the letters. And here we see that this was enabled as a web service report. And here's the namespace. And in order to get the XML and XSD, you have to go to web service and then view URLs. If the report has any prompts, the prompt screen will come up, and then you click OK. So then you come to the URLs web service page, and here you have to click on the Workday XML to download the XML and the XSD. When you click on it, you'll be prompted to enter the username and password, which I don't have. But you could click on the XSD and you could get the sample data. When you look at it in this way, it's a little bit too technical for me. So I don't even bother looking at it. I just download it and then upload it. And when you're uploading, it is a little complex. So I usually have someone who's an expert in integrations work on this part. Okay, so back on the report. So this is the report that generated the letter that we saw. So let me go to Studio and BIRT Designer. Studio and BIRT Designer is actually separate classes, therefore the more technical folks. But in that class, they will teach you where to download it from and then how to install it. But assuming that you have already installed it, you could change the perspective or the view from the upper right-hand side. So right now, I'm not in the Studio view, I'm in the Report Designer view. And the report that we were seeing was generated from this template. The XSD data file that we downloaded from Workday, once we upload that into the designer, it creates a data set, and then it will have the data set here, and then you can open it up and you'll see all the fields that were in your report that will be listed here. And if they're listed here, that means they're ready for to use in the template. Now, question is like, do we create this design from scratch? Yes, you can. If you're good with like HTML design, or you know how to make web pages, and you're familiar with like borders and margins and padding, it's very easy to do this. I'm not. So I basically go to the Workday community. I download a template because people have shared a lot of templates on the Workday community, and I look for the one that's closest to what I need, and then I just download that report design, and then I use that as a starting point, and then I add my own fields to it. So in the Workday community, there's a lot of templates for many purposes. There are some for bonus, there's some for employment verification, etc. Once you have a template like this, it's actually pretty easy to add things to it. So I'm going to go ahead and say, for example, if there was no logo here, I could just click here and then right click and then insert image. And then I could pull up from the images that have been uploaded, I could select the correct one, and then I could just update that. Now it is a little bit challenging, like how you see the layout here. It doesn't appear exactly when you look at it in the PDF version. So you have to do a lot of tweaking, but that's just how it is. After the logo, you have, if you wanted to insert text, you could enter text or you could enter a label. So I'll give it a label, sample word letter. Okay. So now it's there as a sample word letter. You would have a date, and then this is to, and then the employee name. So to has been inserted as a text, and then right after that, you just drag employee name and put it over here, and then drag employee ID and put it over here. Now, I just dragged employee ID and put it there, but there's really no space between the employee and employee ID. So for those who work with HTML or a little more technical, you guys know that you could adjust the padding. So down here in this section are the properties. So you click on that object that you want to modify. So I clicked on employee ID, and I'm going to give it some padding on the left-hand side. So I'm going to make that 10 points. Okay. So hopefully that'll be enough. And this section right here, this is the congratulations part that we saw. And then this is static text. And then right after that, where it says your award amount is, and then there's a field for actual bonus amount. This is dynamic, right, based on the employee for whom this letter is being generated. So this part is inserted as static text, and then the actual amount of the bonus has been pulled from here, and it's just dragged over here. So like I'm going to delete currency, and I'm going to pull it again. So one funky thing is when you pull something from the left-hand side to this section, it doesn't like properly line up neatly. You do have to adjust the style. So I'm going to pull the currency field, and I'm going to put it over here, and you'll see what I mean. Okay. So when I drop currency over here, instead of sitting next to actual bonus amount, it went below it. So that happens every single time. So then you have to come down to the general properties and scroll down a little bit, and then you have to adjust the display. So for some reason, by default, the display style is block. So that's why it goes below the previous element. But we want to change it from block to inline. Okay. So now it became in the same line as the previous row. So these two fields are dynamic, and then you have static text again. If you needed to add some additional static text, like I said, you just go here, enter text. When we did the label, we did not get all of these HTML options, but when you're entering text, you could do that. There's some more static text based on whatever the company decides they want to put on the letter, and then a thank you note, and then some companies use a signature at the bottom, some don't. If it's a memo style, then you don't need a signature, but if it's a letter, then you obviously need a signature, and then you would insert the signature as an image. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay. I have not imported this into Workday yet. So Workday still has the old layout. The old layout does not have sample letter or sample BIRT letter label that we entered. And then it does not have the padding that we added to employee ID. But if you want to get a preview of how this would look, or if there's any errors, you could go to this little YouTube-like symbol, and then you click on the down arrow, and then say View Report as HTML. And if there's no errors in that report or in the layout, you will successfully see an HTML version of this, like a web page. If there's any errors, then it will not. So it's always, before you import it into Workday, you do View Report as HTML. You could do it from here, and you could also, I believe, you could do it from under the run command. Yeah, you could do it from here as well. Okay, so I'm gonna here, it opened up in another window. So the layout doesn't look correct because it's, the spacing is not adjusted, but at least it showed up and there's no errors. So that means at least it's pulling up the data correctly. Within Workday, so here's the report that's being used. Once you create that report design within the report designer, is there under the navigator. You do a right click and you create another folder, and then you upload your report design from the community and you put it over here. And then once you're done, you could either drag it, like you could click on it and you could drag it into Workday, or you could deploy it. So I have already done that for the first version. So let me, but we did make some changes now. So before I deploy the updated version, let me show you guys the current version from within Workday. So there's an additional step within the custom report. You have to go to Actions and then Layout. So that layout that you created within, the layout that was created within Studio, you will need to add that under Manage Layouts within the report. So in this case, I have already have Google version 2. And if we want to see the details behind it, let me open that up in a new tab. Let me put it in edit mode. So when I first created it, I had to give it a description. So I said Google version 2. You have to make it active. So this is really tricky and it's hard to see this field. Like if you just enter that description, then your mind just rushes to the next asterisk. You don't even see that, hey, this is a critical checkbox, and you need to click active. And then the next field is resulting document expiration date in days. So how many days you want to keep this report active within the document. So it could be 1 year. So you put like 365. Because that's kind of like an arbitrary number. But I always just put like 1 year. And then for the report design, I already have that over here. But if it wasn't, you click and you attach a new one. So you go create custom business form report design, attachment, and you could drag it from the report designer into this area, and then it will get uploaded. Or you could download it from the report designer onto your desktop and then upload it into here. So I don't want to change it yet, so I'm gonna cancel out of this. The field below that, apply report design separately to each row. If the report has multiple rows, in this case, we have a manager and all his employees. So we want this layout to be applied separately for each employee. So you would click this. Otherwise, the layout would get applied to the whole output. But for our purposes, since we're generating a ladder for each employee, this must be clicked. Now, in this example, we're doing a ladder for compensation review, but the same BIRT technology is also used for W-2 slips or a lot of payroll does a lot of printing, so they basically use the same technology, and some of these may be more relevant to them. And then here you also have to enter the name of the report for which that you're building this layout for, and then you click OK. So since I don't want to make any changes, I'm just going to cancel out from here. So this is the view business form layout for that report, and I navigated to it from actions and then layout and manage layouts. So now I'm going to run this report, and since it's defaulted for Peter Pan's organization, I click OK. Okay. So Peter Pan has awesome employee, another awesome employee, and not so awesome employee. But because we have a BIRT layout design, this button, this print tab shows up at the bottom. So if we click that letter will be generated. And the letter will show the data that's in here. Well, actually, it will show the fields that you have selected in the template. This shows all the fields that were in the report, but once you click print, it will generate a letter for these three employees based on the template that we had in Studio. Okay. So here is the letter that's generated. There's 3 of them, 1 of 3. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we made some changes to that layout. So we want to update the report and we want to bring in the new version of the layout into this report. So let me go back into Studio. So like, for example, if I go here, this is the template that I updated. So I want to make sure that I'm clicked on there. I want to make sure that I save it. And I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to click on deploy and then deploy to Workday. Here on the upper right hand side, so this is the General Studio and then this is the Designer. I believe there's also under Windows, you could switch back and forth. Okay, so when I'm ready to deploy, it asks me, do I want to create a new form layout or do I want to update the existing one? So I'm going to go ahead and update the existing one. And then, well, actually, let me show you guys the questions it asks if you want to create a new one. Okay. So you have to give it a name. You have to make sure active is clicked. You have to give the document expiration number of days, and then apply per row. So basically the same questions that if you were creating it in Workday. And then if the report has multiple layouts, you could select this one to be the default one. And if it does have multiple layouts, it will ask you which one to use. But if you have this one marked as default, it will select that one, but it does give you the option of selecting a different layout if you have multiple layouts. So I'm just going to update the existing one. So it says, a report design with a name, the same report design is already associated with the business form layout. Do you wish to override? So I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to say deploy. Okay, so it says report design with the name has been successfully deployed for that report that we were looking at. Okay, so now let me go back to that report in Workday. If there's only few employees, the link to the letters shows up pretty quickly. If this was a long list, like 10 or 20, then it does take like a minute or two. And in that case, what you could do is, you could say, you could come back to it later, and you could go under this bell, and then it would have the document under here, under the notifications. Correct. You could definitely put conditions on what you display in here based on any kind of condition that you could build within your report. Yes and no, because there's some, like for example, if you want to display bonus, and like if you want to display the bonus section only for those people who had bonus, And if someone did not have bonus, then you do not want to display that field or that section. Then that visibility is controlled within the report designer visibility. And then there's a, visibility is a property that you could manipulate within a report designer. And then you could also create, another way would be if you have multiple companies within the same corporation, then you could create different reports and then give each report its own layout if you want to keep things simpler. So that way, if you have totally different text, say like a corporation in UK, yeah. So in that case, it's probably better to have a separate report within Workday and then roll that out to, like UK managers versus US managers. So in that case, if you want to have, you would have two different reports with two different layouts, right? One report for the US managers and one report for UK. Okay. And both of these reports would have separate layout because the verbiage would be different. Okay, so we updated the template. We put like sample BIRT letter as a label, so we see that here. And here I added, we had an awesome year, but somehow it's not translating that HTML symbol into bold. So someone who's actually more technical will have to help with that. And I also created spacing between the employee name and the employee number by adjusting the padding. So you see that it's no longer connected to it. And the manager could download this, or they could print it directly, or they could view it, and they could email it electronically if their employee is local, or I mean, if it's not local, or they could make a hard copy, and they usually go to a meeting and then hand out the congratulations letter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. Let me go back here. So there's a lot of properties under the general section, general or padding or borders. It really depends how fancy you want to get. This ladder is very simple. It's just it's in memo format. So there's not a lot of stuff to manipulate. It keeps it simple, easy. And then I'll show you guys something that's a little bit more complicated after a 10-minute break. So any questions on this before we take a break, and then I'll give you guys an example of a merit and a promotion letter. The answer is both, right? Depending on what type of condition. Yeah. So if I want to have conditions to display this field, then that is within this template. So there's visibility. And then here, I could either just hide that element, or if I have selected this correctly, I should be able to generate an expression, and you can write some kind of formula behind it, saying that if the actual bonus amount is greater than 0, only then display this field. If that data is here, like if I had an employee group, if it was here, then I could use that. Yeah. And then this one is just, I only have one data set. But sometimes, like people who make really complicated ones, they actually have multiple data sets, and they do what's called like binding, and they use all kind of like SQL joins. and then they actually have more fields they could work on or to utilize to build the conditions behind it. So here, when I select this, is this particular label. But if I wanted to hide that whole cell, then I could click in this top breadcrumb area, and I could click that, and then I could try to manipulate the visibility of this whole area itself. Or I could select the whole grid. And if I had a subgrid, if I had a grid within the grid, then it makes sense to select that grid and then set the visibility for that particular grid. I have example of that in the merit and the promotion letter. So for let me actually just go to that right now because it's not going to be that much material. So I just want to show you guys this letter, just to show that there's more complex things you could do. But I don't have this is only within the report designer. I don't have this report within Workday, so I'm just going to display this within here, and then I'll display it as an HTML page. So let me open this up as an HTML page. So I go here, and then view report as HTML. Okay. So here, once again, it's got the logo, employee name, sample networks, etc., whatever dates that you want to put in. And then here, under this compensation summary, there's actually 3 different sections. Since this was for a merit process and a bonus process and equity process together, there's different sections. And usually the requirement would be that only display the section which is relevant to the employee. So, for example, if an employee did not get a salary increase, then we do not want to display this section. And that will be controlled within the report designer. If they did not get a bonus, then we do not want to display this section. And if they did not get any stock, then this section will not be visible to them. So this is more of the, when you're doing multiple compensation reviews, so you will definitely want to get a report template that has all of these areas, and then import that into the report designer. So let me show you guys the visibility for these different areas within report designer. Okay, so we have, if I click here, it tells me that I'm in this text area. And if I click on the cell, this whole thing, let me click on the row at the top. So here, for this salary section, when I clicked on the row, under the visibility, we see an expression here. And let me open up this JavaScript syntax. So this is an expression builder. It allows you to type an expression based on the fields that you actually have, and you can build conditions. So basically this is, if the total base pay change is less than 0 and stock units awarded is greater than 0, then you still want to display this particular section because the person has stock, they still have stock. So there's like row outer and like, knowing to put the ampersand twice, I just copy and paste that. Like, I can't really tell you what, I could kind of understand it from a grammatical point of view, but all of this is available on the community, and you just kind of grab the conditions that you need. Or if you're more technical, you could come up, you could come up with them yourself. Search for BIRT report templates, BIRT report design or BIRT report templates. And then people have contributed their templates and they have uploaded their report designs. Yeah, because they would be part of the report design. Yes, this could be, let me go down to the bonus target and let's look at the condition for this. So under the visibility property, we have this expression, total base pay change percent is less than 0, but the stock units awarded was greater than 0. So in this case, if someone didn't have any salary change, but they did have stock, that's the wrong condition there. I think it must be. Okay, let me.
One question, Ramesh.
Yeah.
So if we need any JavaScript code, so we have to drill down all the way, all the templates from community. How should we search a particular functionality?
You would, like, for example, I downloaded this bonus report design, and it had this code already in there. So, like, for this report design, all the properties, they come with it. And I think I have some links where you could download some of the report designs. From that report, we downloaded that data, and then we upload it into. So we do new data set, and you give it a name, and then you go through how to pull that data set. Well, I'm not going to pull the data set on. I don't have any data prepared to pull. But basically, you do new data set, and then you go. I have screenshots which I would put in the guide. And unfortunately, I don't have data set that's prepared that I could pull in here. And you could have multiple data sets, but then as far as how to join them, that's kind of beyond me. I usually go to somebody more technical to figure that out. So it's actually pretty straightforward, especially if you're doing something simple. I'll share this with you guys so you guys see the JavaScript on this template. And yes, so one more thing that I'm creating for you guys is the some notes on this. So this Google Doc, I've just started to create that, but I'll add more stuff on how to download the data from Workday. Okay, so as far as my overall intro to BIRT, this is all I had for today's session, and I could entertain some questions, but this is really kind of like a more technical area than I could help you guys with. But this was just kind of like overall, me doing copy and paste, and I've been successful at doing that.
Sorry about that. Hey, so what have we covered so far within advanced component? What is really there additionally that?
What did we cover? I mean, we covered what is compensation basis. Then we covered what is advanced comp and what makes up advanced comp. So all those different type of plans that we saw, that's
Yeah,
what makes
merit
up plan.
plans and running the event for the merit plans or
Correct.
compensation term. What is it? Process. Um,
Yeah, running the compensation review process
review process.
so that managers, they could do proposals as far as salary increases or bonus increases, and they could enter that, and then once the managers enter it, then you as the Workday person finalize it, and then the data goes into one-time payments. You have to create a report to send that data over to your payroll folks, and then the last step is the manager handing this letter out to the employee saying, "Hey, congratulations! As part of your salary increase, you have earned, this particular bonus and a salary increase."
So, in a nutshell, the overall advanced comp is all about running compensation reviews, whether it be initiated based on quarterly, half-yearly reviews or yearly reviews, whatever it is, that kicks that off. And within that, managers, once they make decisions as to what kind of merit increases the employee needs, um, or what bonus they need to get and what stock options they need to get, for which we already set them. So then once that is done, once it is initiated and the managers submit all that information in through whatever means, the administrators close that process review at the end date, and the templates, the reports get generated, and you create layout templates such as these are the BIRT reports or any other report letters that needs to be sent out to the employees and information to the payroll that gets processed.
Yes, that's you basically describe the whole process for advanced comp.
Okay. So was my understanding correct in sense the managers put in their information regarding bonus and merits and stock options or whatever it is, and once they submit within that time whatever is set, there is an administrator or compensation partner who goes in and closes that whole compensation review process so that all the changes are done and ended.
Yes, from a
Or if there are any corrections with the employees, they do that.
just to add a little bit more functionality to it, it's usually the line managers, they submit it first, and then it goes to the next level manager,
rolls up,
and so on. And sometimes they do say, "Hey, we don't want to send it to the line managers. We just want to keep it at a higher level." And then in that case, you have to create a security group called, merit reviewer or compensation reviewer, and then you launch the process just to those folks. Those will be the leaders of the organizations, and then.
So the only they will be the ones that will be able to review, or they will get the inbox notifications to review the employees' data. Correct. Employees. Okay. Yeah. And so manager, whoever we set, whichever group we set as the managers, they'll be able to go in and make proposals as to what merits need to be done or increases. So once it is closed by the administrators, all the data, so now we have the merit increases and bonus and basis information. So you send that out through a pre-created integration to the payroll for each employee. And at the same time, you send that out through the letters using BIRT process or something, create the reports and send the letters to employees each individual employee to show them as to what they are receiving for that year or for that quarter as a raise. That's it, I guess, right?
Yeah. There's a question.
If there are any corrections
on chat related to promotions within advanced comp.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So even promotions can happen in here other than merit bonus and stock options?
They can, but they're very tricky because there's a complexity to it. So most companies will not do that. But you definitely can do it if you have a proper job profiles in every group. So in order to do a promotion, it's like when you look at the delivered merit template that we saw in our server, there was a field for new job profile. It may not have been called new job profile, but there was, I forget the exact field, but you could select, you could promote someone in that.
Okay.
But
so that would kick in the promotion process, initiate the promotion process or something?
No, it would be it will be part of the merit process.
Okay.
But sometimes it does not work. And the reason it does not work is the job profiles that you want to promote someone, they have to exist before you could promote.
Okay.
And so, for example, you may have like a QA manager 1, 2, 3, and now they may not have QA manager 4.
Right.
And so now, if you say you could do promotions within that, you want to make sure that all of these job profiles that you need in every single organization, they're complete.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll just create a lot of confusion with the managers. They will try to do a promotion, and that job profile will not be there. And at that point, you cannot do anything about it.
So that's usually handled by the HR team. So
yeah. So it's usually done off cycle.
Right.
But it could definitely, if you have a proper setup and all the job profiles are there in Workday, then you could definitely do it as part of the merit process as well.
Got it.
In addition, we also saw you could do lump sum payments, which is just like a merit.
What is it? What is it again? What
remember in one of the sessions we saw another category called lump sum.
Lump sum payments. Okay.
Yeah. So it's basically a separate budget than merit. And within that merit process, you could allow managers to give a certain dollar amount to employees, and it will not come out of the
pool amount.
Yeah, it will not come out of it. So by default, when you launch merit, the lump sum section is there, the promotion section is there, and you have to click or unclick the sections that you need or you don't need, like we saw yesterday.